Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson, and welcome to 6 Ways to Start the Semester Right. I'm a professor of construction management, and every year I have a whole new host of students, and I see some students struggle a bit, and some students sometimes fall off the map a bit. And let's start the semester right. Let's look at some ways to learn to learn. People don't realize that there are systems and structures that you can put into place to really enhance your ability to learn new concepts really well. And it's important whenever you enter a semester at school that you're looking at, well, how can I better understand like the first principles of what I'm learning so I can apply it to so many different things throughout my life. It's not just about learning to get through a course, it's about learning to enhance your career and your future. And if you build these learn to learn skills, they can be applied over and over again throughout your lifetime. So let's start the semester right. Let's look at 6 things that we can think about and approach. Now keep in mind too, that everybody learns differently, and some things that I may mention, they might not be perfect for you, but then there'll be some things that'll work really well for you. Or it might be that you're already doing some things, but there's other things that are holding you back. So watch this with a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset, and let's see how the semester unfolds for you. Okay, so I've got it broken down into 6 areas. We'll talk about habits, we'll talk about calendars, note-taking, how to focus, and learn to study techniques that work for you. We'll try to give you some different ideas and different methodologies, and a little bit about what you should be doing in your classwork to get to know your professor and how that can help you before you really need to know your professor. Okay, so as I said, I'm a professor of construction management, so if you're in a construction-related program, subscribe to my channel, check out the playlist. I have several hundred videos on a variety of topics, mostly to do with construction, construction management, productivity, construction techniques and systems and methodologies. And I hope my site helps you in lots of ways. Click the notifications button and you can also see when I newly upload videos, typically once or twice a week. All right, so habits. Well, the semester's starting. This is your opportunity. It's a fresh start. You're doing some things differently, and so you can put some habits into place that makes it easier for you to do things. Our days are filled with habits. You know, you get out of bed, you brush your teeth, there's certain things, you put the coffee on, there's certain things that you do. And some habits, they're really good habits, and some habits, they're not so good habits. Checking your phone, getting stuck on social media, getting distracted constantly. Those would be bad habits that kind of hold you back and prevent you from doing the things that you really want to do. So, you know, part of that is having a goal for what you're trying to achieve in the semester. So what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? I would say as a threshold goal, you definitely want to pass all of your courses. Maybe you have certain aspirations as to, you know, what kind of grades that you'd like to try to shoot for. And then put into place systems that'll make those goals easier. It's hard. You only have a certain amount of willpower when you got to force yourself to do things. But if you do things in a very repetitive way, it just becomes that habit that you do. So if, for example, you take a subway to your school and it takes 45 minutes on the subway, well, if you're able to get a seat and study during that 45 minutes, that's 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back. That's an hour and a half of reading, studying, catching up on different things that you need to do and prepare for school. That's a great habit to develop, and that time is now much more useful rather than just sort of shutting your eyes and listening to music. So it can be where you've got tight for time, because I find a lot of students, they have to work several jobs, they have to go to school, so you got to find your opportunities. And if you can stack things, I have to go to work in this way and take the public transit, but if I use this time, it can be helpful. And I'm just using that as an example, but there could be a lot of other areas where you have those opportunities. Maybe it's at lunchtime at work or something like that. So you look at those and you try to build in those habits. And you know what? Takes a little bit of time. There's no magic rule to how long a habit takes to develop, and it depends on the level of complexity, etc. but you keep at it, and over time then it just becomes second nature, and that's what you do. So as I said, it's a fresh start, and you look for ways to make it that it's not taking any more effort than necessary. That's the other thing too. You might decide, well, my goal is to pass everything. I've got to work 2 jobs at the same time. So your goal might not be to get all A's. Your goal might be to get through this semester, be able to pay your rent and buy your food, and at the same time pass your courses. That can make a lot of sense. So then you want to look at, well, how do I make this as effortless as possible? You really want to look at, well, where are my marks coming from? What are the key areas that I need to make sure that I'm doing? Don't be giving away free marks, as I say later in one of the slides. And where to study. So I said, you could do it in the subway. You could do it in a park that's near the school. Maybe you've got an hour between classes. Maybe there's a good opportunity. You could go to a park and read during that time, or you could start on your actual assignment. Or maybe in the library, there's little cubicle rooms that you can go into and sort of do some of that work. You can book them, etc. So thinking about where and when. Where is my best time? Now, if you pick a time and you do it over and over again at that time, it's good, right? So if every night you study between 8 and 10 p.m., as long as you're not too tired that you're falling asleep at 8:05, then that's fine. Different people are different ways. Some people like to get up early and get that done. If you're a night owl, a lot of my students are, might work well between 8 and 10 or 10 to 12. I did 2 degrees part-time, had a family, and was working full-time. And I found during that time period, my best opportunity was between 10 and midnight. And that's when I did my studying for a number of years. Not easy, but definitely did it. And it was just into real habit of doing those things. So think about it that way. Time block. So time blocking means that you just block off that time, and this is what you're going to do at that time. And when that time comes on your calendar, that's what you do. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be time blocked for habits. Time blocking can be used for things that are coming up. Maybe you got a big assignment and you time block group work for a particular time. That's very helpful, which ties to the next topic, which is calendars. Calendars and due dates. A lot of my students, they don't keep calendars. It's so hard to remember everything. Again, that effortless idea is don't make things harder than it needs to be. Put it into a calendar, develop a system. And I'm not going to tell you it has to be written or it has to be digital. Pick a system that works for you. For me, for calendars, for sure, digital works really well. Because I can see it on any one of my devices, whether it's an iPad, whether it's my phone, or whether it's my computer. I can always check it and see it and pull it up and adjust it. And so like an example might be here I've got my Google Calendar. All right. And in Google Calendars, I put in all the things that I've got coming up. This is from a few months back, but I've got all of my classes that I need to do. I've squeezed in meetings here and there on different topics. I color code things so I can distinguish between sort of a meeting and something that I've got to be present for. If this is something that's within my school, if this is something outside my school, I've got different color coding so I can quickly jumps out at me and I know what's up and what it has to do with. And usually these codes I got a little bit more flexibility with than other codes. It's very, very helpful for me to have that and to set that up. And then you get used to the systems. Again, we talked about habits and systems. Well, a lot of things are Zoom these days, so I can do them. I can coordinate it with my Google Calendar, with my Zoom calendar. It basically integrates straight into that. I can set up meetings within Google Calendar, and I can Zoom meetings within Google Calendar, and within Zoom I can basically save it to Google Calendar. Makes it easy to do. And at first, you know what, I didn't always do those types of things, but putting that effort up front then saves you hours and hours of effort otherwise. So the advantages of calendars, don't underestimate that. You're dumping all this stuff that you're trying to, what was I supposed to be doing today? What was I, where was I supposed to be? Where when is this coming up? What's going on? It's a brain drain, and that makes you lose your focus. So you dump all this stuff into other areas. And that's kind of a theme that I'm going to talk about a little bit here too, is, you know, there's so much information we have going on compared to 15 years ago. Like, I can't even tell you how much different it is. The work environment and school environment and all of these things that are playing for our attention. So we don't want to keep up in our minds anything that's just a distraction that we can go to and refer to. There's a book called The Second Brain, and it's an excellent book. I've been reading it, and it's talking about that, dumping these things out of your mind into sources that you can grab it back when you need it. And certainly calendars is important. And putting into the calendars, you can put into, you know, really important assignments. You can put in reminders, because these days there's a lot of online quizzes and assignments that are due at all these different times. You can put reminders so that that will tweak you and it's there, and then you get it done. You don't give away marks unnecessarily. And that's always sad when I see that towards the end of the semester, that some students, they've given away so many marks by not even attempting something that it puts them in a failing positions. You know, you could look at your learning management system. Is it Blackboard or is it Canvas? There's going to be some learning management system if you're in post-secondary school. And is there a calendar facility in that? And you can even put all your assignments in that, or some of them actually even show up when they've been done in announcements and different things by your professors. Probably myself, I probably wouldn't do too much with that, because I prefer to set up like a system like Google Calendar and have that so that when I finish school, I just keep doing what I'm doing. So I've got this system and I just keep using it. Doesn't matter if it's the holidays, doesn't matter if it's between semesters, doesn't matter if I graduated, I have a system that I use, right? Whereas learning management systems, you're kind of locked into only for those semesters. So keep that in mind too, longevity. If I'm going to invest my time into something, I like to invest it once and not have to do redos and different things like that. Note taking. I find nobody takes notes. Students don't take notes, and they just sort of passively watch. If they're live in class, you know, they're more or less watching, but they're not really taking any kind of live notes. And that's a shame, because you can't remember everything. And the act of writing something down, the research shows that you remember it better. Still don't remember it perfectly, but you remember it better than just sort of passively listening. If your professor has you do question periods where you do breakout rooms or you do groups discussions, participate, because when you discuss these things, it really starts to resonate. And when you start applying these things, it really starts to stick. And then it's not so much, you know, cramming for a test. It's that you've already got these fundamentals sticking, just putting them all together and in your preparation. So yeah, you can write notes down. I use a journal to write a lot of notes. You know, whenever I'm doing something, I'm always writing notes in it, and to-dos, ideas, points that I want to remember. And you develop, again, a system that you can pull it back. So this is maybe a first entry point. If I have really good points that I want to add, that I want to be able to get long-term, because I've written several textbooks, one on project management and one on understanding construction drawings, project management, planning and scheduling. And so I always have ideas, and even a YouTube channel, I always have ideas. Well, how do I keep them? Well, I have ideas in the notes. So basically, when I have my ideas, I have a whole series of ideas. I don't know if you can see that, but basically a list, because at a certain point the note gets full. So I have all these different ideas that I've captured, and you got to have some system then that you can search it and you can recall it, you can file it in different ways, and that way it doesn't get lost. There's no way that you can remember all this stuff. And so it's helpful from that perspective to do that. And you could have key points for each course that you're taking and put notes. And you can do it basically with a microphone and talk into it with speech recognition. You can do it so many different ways. If you did write it, you can take a photo image of it and put it into the note. These are all different ways that you can do these things. So very important to do that. Then you've got access to key points. You can go back to those key points. You can search those key points, and it's easier to do. It's better than just highlighting slides and different things like that. It's because this way you put it into your own words, and then it's searchable. Focus, focus, focus. That's the interruption aspect. That's the time blocking aspect that I said. Multitasking doesn't work. So trying to do 5 courses at once and respond to your friends' texts and watch something on YouTube and TikTok and have your TV on, it doesn't work. You're just wasting a lot of time. And students complain, I don't have enough time to do this. Well, that's where if you develop really good habits, it can definitely help you in that way. Because now when you actually have to do something, you can sit down and do what Cal Newport in his book, Deep Work, refers to. Deep work. You can focus and you can get a lot done in a short period of time instead of stringing it out over a long period of time, not really having it sink in and not doing it that well and getting stressed out about it. So this is where you're helping yourself to be able to do more, have more time. If you want to go out on the weekend, have more time to do that, but it's going to require having the right habits and focus, focus, focus. Can really help you. I can't tell you how much that can help you, this ability, especially today. You don't have to be perfect at it, but whatever state you're at. And you know what? If you really have trouble with this, even marginal improvements are going to drastically help you, right? Like, I can't do that because I can't really focus. I'm always distracted, my phone, TikTok, whatever. You probably have the biggest opportunity for improvement. I always look at some of these negatives and say, well, that's actually a positive. If this isn't your problem, focus. Oh no, I can sit and I can just focus and get things done all the time. Then working on this, you're going to get a marginal improvement. But if this is an area where you suffer at, this is where even a marginal improvement will mean a big improvement to your overall work style, stress, and improvements in your grades and learning. So keep that in mind. You might want to look up the Pomodoro techniques. I've got another video on that, under this education sort of playlist that I have. Which is basically learning to focus on something for a period of time, usually like 20-25 minutes, and then taking a short break. Sometimes I get students that tell me, I studied for 24 hours straight. Well, that's your problem. 1, you're burned out. 2, you couldn't have because your mind would have been wandering so much. You would have been much better to have studied probably an hour and a half each day for the last 10 days. That'd be 15 hours than spending 24 hours studying straight, right? So you can do the math on that and see the difference. All right. If that is an area, also practice meditation. Start learning how to meditate. It takes a while. It's not easy, but you know what? It is relaxing. And once you get into the flow of it, it's very helpful at helping you to improve your focus. Learn study techniques that work for you. Think about your own history, your own past. When did you do really well? What were some of the things that you were doing when you did really well? And I don't mean, well, I did really well, I always do really well in math. Maybe you have a little bit more talent than others, unless you've taken that little bit of talent you have and you've built good techniques around it, right? So that's where very often the people that go the furthest are the ones that have done what Anders Ericsson refers to as deliberate practice. They've learned to get feedback and to work at improving on it. But likely there's things that you've done in the past that maybe you hit upon for a period of time, but you didn't keep that habit going. Take a look what worked for you and be a student of learning. Be a student of learning. These are skills, you know what? Honestly, we don't teach these enough in college, university, public schools, high schools. This should be something that we're doing every semester. myself included. I'm always looking at different methods of learning and how to improve. And that really helps me to accelerate. And sometimes I use things as like an experiment. A few years ago, I did a sabbatical where I did the PMP and the CM Lean sort of certifications. And I did the studying techniques that I used as a test lab to see what worked really well and what didn't. And a lot of the things that worked well for me was what the things are I'm telling you about now. And get to know your professor, your teacher, before you need to. You know, if you're a student and the professor hasn't seen you all semester because you don't come to class, and then the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden you show up and it's like, I need to pass this course. I have to pass this course. That's probably not going to help you. If you've been at least touching base with your professor, letting the professor know that you've got some issues going on, and these are the things that you're trying to do about it, and you're consulting with them, there's some acknowledgement of effort in there, and there may be more opportunities for a little bit more relief or empathy from your professor than just showing up the last 2 weeks, because we do get a lot of students that all of a sudden show up the last 2 weeks and expect somehow to pass, and that just doesn't work. And if for some reason somebody does get through the course, it actually is worse for them, because then the next semester they don't even know what they're doing, and so sooner or later these things catch up. So really make an effort, introduce yourself, stand out from the crowd. These days a lot of courses are moving to online. Turn your camera on. I see students, they want to go through the whole semester and they don't want to turn their camera on, and they want to say it's an excuse. Oh, my camera doesn't work. I'm sure on your cell phone your camera works, and so if you have to do a Zoom class on the cell phone just so that at least the professor can get to see you, it's helpful that way. It makes it much more personal. And of course, if you're in person, it's pretty easy to introduce yourself either just before the class or just after the class. Make sure you're asking questions during the class. It's also, you know, this is part of building long-term relationships, and that can be very, very helpful for you in your future and your career. You never know how these relationships work out further into your career, etc. So I hope this 6 points has given you something to think about, and we'll see you in the classroom or online. I'm Tom Stephenson, wishing you a wonderful day, and don't forget to click subscribe for more videos on learning, construction management, and construction in general. Have a great day. Bye.